Good afternoon. It's Thursday, January the 7th, 2021. Sago, I'm David Lahash, and welcome to today's COVID-19 Task Force update for this, our 166th show. On our program today, we'll hear from Tom Dearhouse of KSCS, MCK Chief Mike Delisle, and Lisa Westaway, Task Force member and the Executive Director of the KMHC. So we'll start off our show with Tom. Tom, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom Dearhouse. I'm a traditional support worker at the Family Wellness Center, and I'm here to make, I have several items on my agenda. One is a men's group that was involved in planning. The second and third items are messages from KSCS management having to do with overall wellness, mental and emotional wellness. And the third item is about an increasing volume of calls, requests for services, custody issues, and so on. So I'll begin. So the men's support group, I've been involved in planning, and this is set to run the end of January. We've been wanting to do a men's group for a while. We think it's a timely and appropriate to do it at this time, because we see that during this pandemic time, there's probably a population that needs services to address some of their issues, and individual issues providing for themselves and their families. As you know, our men can be very proud. Some people say stubborn. I say determined. And have a tendency maybe not to ask for services, but this is about our target audience. And we hope that we're going to have a noticeable impact on improving their overall mental wellness and even spirituality for that matter. So if you look at men as individuals, as providers, protectors, and partners, we hope that we can reduce those frustration levels, combat the anxiety levels and depression through this avenue of having a men's group that's going to run for 8 weeks. In fact, the community in a report February of last year, 2020, the community has said that they want traditional healing methods. So this men's group is part of that, combined with all the other activities that KSCS does. So this group, we hope to, you might see the ads already in the newspapers. It's entitled Lifting the Burdens of Men's Issues. So it's giving, just like in person, we want to create a safe space for men to discuss their issues and problems that they may be having, all in a safe environment. So it does allow the men to unburden themselves, experience hopefully a decrease in their anxiety and depression and frustration, and very importantly too, there's an educational piece that will give them the tools to move on in a good way. I have a page here of all kinds of jargon and language that KSCS uses in dealing with governments. I'll just highlight a few that the men's group included is fully client-centered and focused. We try to actively engage community members all the time. And importantly, especially for Family Wellness Center, but also at the main building, we want to use Kahnawà ways of doing things, increasing culture and language, and just incorporating Kahnawà ways in everything that we do. And we hope to do that through the men's group. I have colleagues that offer women's groups, there's parenting groups, even cooking skills. We used to have groups for the youth too, so that's all included. So it's what the community wants, and that's what we try to offer. So I'll just point out that the men's talking circle has been approved all the way up to the executive director, which is a good thing. We couldn't do it otherwise. And we think it's a solid, we were solid in our planning, and we expect to run this group again on a regular basis. So along with me as a facilitator, I have Cody Martin, who right now is studying social work at McGill. We have a list of topics that we've chosen, but the discussion is not limited just to that. I'll just do a run through of the topics. We will introduce Ohando Gadiwadekwa as an opening and closing. This is like part of the original instructions along with protecting Mother Earth. So we're going to teach that and incorporate some language there. We're going to talk about the present day situation that seems to be on everyone's mind, and what we're dealing with is pandemic and the restrictive measures, the isolation, the adjustments, the inability to see family, and just the disruptions in our daily life pre-COVID. We'll talk about self-esteem and confidence, or lack of, and try to identify obstacles and remove those obstacles through tools to overcome those obstacles. We'll have a guest speaker, at least one, during the 8 weeks. We hope to have a guest speaker talk about spirituality, men's roles, use of tobacco and wampum, and just men's roles in general. We'll have an introduction to Sweat Lodge and Red Willow Purge. Sweat Lodge is important for self-care, purification, and just maintenance of your overall health, and the medicines do the same thing. There's about 3 left. With men getting together, we hope that this will develop into like a peer support network. Nothing prevents these guys from meeting on their own in the future, or joining up with a group again. This develops a support network on their own, aside from workers, either with workers or separate from workers. So that's going to be a good thing. And they get to practice those tools for moving forward. All the things that happen in our lives, where there's grief and loss that happens, perhaps there's childhood trauma, perhaps there's addictions. These are all going to be addressed in the group, and support for moving forward. There's also going to be a talk and discussion about spiritual matters. This may be familiar to some people. There's teachers around that speak of spirit retrieval or soul retrieval. This is used to deal with trauma from childhood, or recent traumas even. And so all the relevant teachings from people like Emmy Mitchell, Tom Porter, Daryl Thompson, local and other people within who have that traditional knowledge, that'll be shared. And then it's going to be a graduation, debriefing and closing, and a graduation, and there's a little surprise at the end, and of course an evaluation. And like I say, we're open to even enhancing the program again, the group again, and we expect to run that again in the future. So just to summarize, there was pros and cons for running a group. Some of the positives were it just builds a community support for men in the community who may not otherwise have that. So we expect people to sign up, and they can sign up through myself. There's an email that's circulating, or they can call the Family Wellness Center, or they can even call the main building at KSCS to sign up. And all a person needs is access to a phone or a computer, laptop, and a valid email, and a Zoom application, which is free. So once again, it gives them a safe outlet, this group, and you don't have to travel. The weather is always good on Zoom. Some of the negatives, we're just addressing kind of the reluctance of men to even take a risk and try that technology. But I think if they just take a risk, I think they're going to get a lot of benefits from gathering and talking. So that's all about the group. I might, this kind of blends into the second issue of mental wellness and overall mental wellness. KSCS, of course, is mandated to take care of the community. So Gotiat Gentas means taking care of individuals and families. So what we've noticed, and the message from management is, it does seem there is an increase in counseling requests. So the men's group will hope to take a cluster of men to handle those requests, to be more efficient in services. I was also asked to speak about the idea of custody issues, as KSCS workers will have to remain objective about custody issues. We can't take sides, and it's actually in the realm of superior court. We don't have the mandate to do that. So our advice is for clients or for any requests for custody issues, if you don't have a custody order, you'll have to hire a lawyer and petition the court to start that process. Or if you have an existing court order, you're advised you'll follow it as much as you can and not involve the COVID task force for technically custody issues. But they will handle each request. It's just a matter of directing the person to the appropriate service for faster answers to people's questions. So yes, we're concerned about mental and emotional wellness, and I think we can say as individual workers, we have our caseload, and we're doing that. The group is having groups or running groups is an extension of taking care of a population or more than one, which saves us time. We're really flexible on time. We can run it in the day, we can run in the evenings. We know people have obligations for work and family and if you have children, the children are doing online classes too, so we're very flexible in trying to schedule things. Maybe I just want to get back to, I was handed this, there's a public service announcement about custody issues, and it has to do with a little bit of youth protection and also custody. So a parent who legitimately feels that their child is at risk or feels that the child's safety and security is compromised does have a responsibility to protect the child. And the protection in the terms of calling or signaling a person, KSCS is obligated to check things out. But they're saying if a person doing that, a parent, happens to be going against a court order, they're also expected to contact their lawyer to explain the circumstances of that and to get legal advice and further directions. So overall, KSCS is pleased to help with psychosocial needs, the emotional aspect. It's taking its toll on workers, this isolation, but we're doing the best that we can, helping each other. I know as co-workers, my co-workers and I have done a lot of planning, using this time to do some planning, program planning. So just to give you a forecast of things to come, there's also a grieving group to be run over 8 to 10 weeks. That's coming up in February. And then further after that, there's a larger healing group, which a grieving group is part of, but a healing group for families. And we've got plans for that and outline for that, and that may run even the summer or in the fall. But all that is in the making, so it's just a matter of rolling those things out when the time is appropriate. Yeah, so it's true, really, when you think about it, if you're having difficulty yourself, help and support is only a phone call away. At KSCS, as for the intake worker, it's business hours 8:30 to 4. If it happens to be after hours, there's still available help through the after hours response services. And I actually do that from now and then, 2 or 3 times a month, where either existing clients or if you want to have questions about a service, you can actually open a file. At that time, we get your name and a request for the issues, and that's brought back to the main building at KSCS. So, you might think that it might be roundabout, you're being bounced about. We're trying to make it streamlined, almost like a one-stop shopping to get an intake of clients through intake or after-hours response. That's available. There's more information on the KSCS webpage. You can also talk to workers, intake workers, but that might tie up but everyone and myself are available to answer these questions. I'm the contact person for the group. I'm also willing to make myself available if you had ideas of things that you want to run in the community, to give it a try. It's probably something we've already thought of, but we're always open to ideas. Well, I think I've covered all the things that I wanted to say, so that's my time. Just want to wrap up by saying I encourage everyone to keep up the good work, all the workers that are trying to help the community. I certainly acknowledge all the time and effort and sacrifices in this difficult time. So I advise everyone to keep on taking care of yourself, first of all. Then when you feel strong and really resilient and you're feeling good, you're better able to take care of others and do the important things that need to be done. And so we're not over this yet. No one knows for sure, but this is the way to go to keep ourselves taking care of each other and just try to uplift each other. And doing that, you're bound to have increased that level of thankfulness and gratitude that we all need. That's part of the original instructions, taking care of each other. So I'll leave it at there. Kahnawà.
I'll go with Tom. Up next is MCK Chief Mike Delisle. Mike.
Thank you, Dave. Difficult times. Seguns Amugwego. Osaraze, Happy New Year, as it's the first time I'm seeing most of you since January 1st. It hasn't been that happy, even since we're only 7 days in. As most people will understand and come to know by this time, there's been a tragedy in the community. On behalf of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake and the entire community, we would like to give our condolences to the family and friends of the dearly departed. And I'll kick off with, not on the heels of Tom, but mental health, mental wellness and health, as well as physical, is extremely important during this period of time. It's not something that I'm an expert in by any means, but understanding and living in this community, not only for the last 10, 11 months, but my entire life, it's extremely important to power of mind, strength of body, as they say, and no more time than now to ensure that we have both. I'm not putting it lightly, I'm not taking this mildly. It's extremely important for our community to understand that. Tom laid out a plan, and for people to, and I'm encouraging people to, from all walks of life, to ensure that they have contact. And I don't mean personal, given the current conditions, but at least reach out and speak to somebody to maintain your mental health. It's extremely important. Physical health goes hand in hand to ensure that, as I said earlier, body and mind in one, to try and combat not only the mental fatigue that we're all experiencing, but the physical fatigue that comes with that as well. My understanding is that there's many people in the community, as again Tom has laid out, that are feeling this, and no one needs to be isolated, even though personal contact and the touch, so to speak, and I know everyone wants to hug each other, and well, maybe not everyone, but most people at this point in time, there are other ways to ensure that you have contact, and I'm just encouraging you to reach out to whoever, whether it's myself, a service in the community, an organization, family, friends, as I'm sure you have through phone, Zoom, Skype, and any other means at this point through social media. Make sure that you are well. I know that some of the social media commentary has not been positive. I think it's extremely important, again, to ensure that we would try and remain as positive as we can. Whether you agree with individual position, whether you agree with task force, whether you like the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake or not, or me personally, it doesn't matter right now. We need to remain one as a community to ensure that we can get through this, and I have no doubt that we will. It needs to be taken seriously. Depression, mental health, anxiety, and everything that comes with what we've been through for the past almost year now needs to be taken very seriously. And people obviously are afflicted, and I'm hoping that you have a channel to reach out to. We're everywhere. So reach out to anybody you feel comfortable with and ensure that you have not only peace of mind, but can, whether it's cry, share stories, and everything in between, past and present, to ensure that you're in a good place. Again, it needs to be taken seriously. Speaking of that, seriousness is something that I'm taking on a personal and professional level in terms of some of the, I'll say, breaches that we've seen recently and in the past. There will be repercussions, and I'm saying this because as a Mohawk Council of Kahnawake chief, employee, and person within this community, I believe there needs to be repercussions for any actions that are taken, good and or bad. I will say that to remain safe, to ensure that this community remains safe, you individually, your family, and everyone else. That's why these measures are put in place. It may seem extreme, but looking at what's happened in recent past with the task force on our community, I think we're way ahead of the ball and the game here, because we've seen what's happened in Quebec, we've seen what's happened in certain states and the United States and around the world for that matter, and I think we're leading versus following. They're monitoring what's happening and assuring again that the measures are put in place for that reason specifically, to ensure that we all remain as safe as possible during this very difficult time. And I say repercussions because I think it's time to get tough. I think it's time for, and I know people don't like to hear fines or penalties or any type of extreme measures to be taken, but given some of the breaches recently, Council of Kahnawake has taken it seriously through operations and administration, and to ensure that people understand that we will be walking the talk. So I'm not going to say more in terms of that, but it needs to be said that we are taking this very seriously. I came off at the beginning of the show saying Osaraze. I'll take the opportunity here to wish my son, my oldest, a happy birthday. I hope it is happy at this point. January 7th, a long time ago. I won't say how old he is, but or give away my age, but a long time ago. We're happy to have you and contribute to this community. So, ending on a good note, again, be safe, be well, and ensure you listen, not only to me, us, and the people that are trying to keep you safe. Be positive, be strong, and we will get through this. Yaongoa.
Go, Mike. And our final guest for today, not the last and least, but our final guest for today, Lisa Westaway, member of the task force and the executive director of the KMHC. Lisa.
Good afternoon. So I want to just go back a little bit to the Legault press conference that happened yesterday, just to clarify a few of the differences between that press conference and us. So one of the major changes that's happening in Quebec is a curfew that's being instilled, so between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. So we are not having that curfew here in Kahnawake. Why? So, as you know, many of the increased cases, hospitalization, and death that's happening in Quebec is happening because of gatherings. Gatherings because people are not following the directives, and also in order to try to stop what is already a big wheel that's turning in Quebec with respect to increases of death, and also filling of the hospitals. So the hospitals are almost at capacity. So we've been very proactive, as we talked about on Tuesday, with our measures, and we are not at the point where we need to implement that. But we do need to stay home. So the measures that Quebec is putting in place is to force people into their homes, to hopefully force people into their homes to actually try to save people's lives, whereas here we're begging you to stay home without having to force you to stay home. These next few weeks are extremely important, and again, I urge you, as everyone did before me, Tom and Mike, find ways to connect with each other. Phone call, Zoom, FaceTime, however you can do so in a safe manner, so that you keep each other safe, so that we take care of each other during these next few weeks. There is a change that we will be making in order just to limit contacts a little bit more, and that's with respect to the gyms. So again, as we've always said, we try to find balance between physical and mental well-being, and therefore we are not closing the gyms. However, we will, as of the 8th, so as of Friday, January 8th, only allow one-on-one training, or a household at a time can train with a trainer in the gym. And so these are some changes that we're going to put in place for until the 31st, like all of our measures, although we will reevaluate on the 15th. All the gyms have been notified, and therefore they will be getting in touch with you if you've scheduled to train. So I want to give an update regarding our number of cases. So presently we have 16 active cases. In fact, we have 5 new active cases today. However, 3 are recently recovered. So we still are seeing an increase in cases, but this is related to 4 clusters. There's something that's really important here when we talk about staying home. So we did expect to have an increase in cases, we've spoken about that, but we didn't expect this amount of contacts, because when we talk about gatherings over the holidays, we talked about maintaining distance between households. So this is something, as Dawn and Juanita spoke about on Tuesday, that is concerning to us. So there's, as I said on the radio, we don't want to look back about the mistakes that we made. We want to make corrections and better ourselves for the future so that we don't lead ourselves to more and more cases and increased measures and possibly death of community members. We want to keep everyone safe, and so that's why we're asking you to stay home. So I have something just for you to think about when you're trying to decide whether you should make a decision to gather, to go to a party, to cross the border, or if you're trying to find ways to kind of skirt the rules without anyone knowing. That in itself should be there should be a light bulb going off in your mind to say, you know what, no, I just shouldn't do that right now. We have a few weeks, maybe a month, to just sit tight in our homes, have contacts with our family members by phone or in other ways, just so that we can get control of this here in Kahnawake. We don't have a huge amount of clusters. We have people who are in isolation, who are doing what they need to do to stop this continuous spread of the virus. And in order to ensure that we don't get any new clusters, we just have to stay home. So we do have control. We're not at a loss of control right now in what we can do to make a change. We all have an individual responsibility to ourselves, to our family, and to the community as a whole to make these decisions to not gather. And if you do that, we will be okay. So you have full control over this and what is going to be. If you don't follow the rules, it's not that you're sticking it to the task force or to the peacekeepers. You're making a decision to impact yourselves, your family's security and safety, and your community as well. So please make the right choices. If you're asking yourself the question, it means you need to just stay home. Thank you.
Yawagoa, Lisa. And that's it for today's program. From everybody here, we'd like to thank our viewers, of course, and we'd also like to thank our guests for being here. So until next time, Yawagoa, Danu, Onagiwahi.